Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
He needs care and treatment.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Daryl May Remax Partners on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Is this a great country or what?
Locking down the middle of the day, live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. It means brought to you by Daryl May, licensed realtor, Louisiana and Mississippi with RE/MAX Partners. Got Jordan Kitchens and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Fired up, you're here with us. Hope your work week is off to a good start. Glen West in 30 minutes. Colin Jeter, LSU Alumni Association, former Tiger tight end, with us at 2 o'clock. Sharief Ishaq will be along in 15 minutes to chat with us about the New Orleans Saints. So we got lots to do. Let's start things with some updates from LSU. I'm not going to say this like 6 more times in December. I'll get to the point more quickly as we get closer to LSU and Houston and the Texas Bowl. But I do feel like in this instance, it's important that I'm clear about my personal feelings on things and why I think today was at least a reasonable development. I lost interest in these bowl games when John Trey Kirkland played quarterback for 4 hours in the Texas Bowl, and then the next year LSU went to Florida and played a Purdue team with no coach and no quarterback and no wide receiver and no tight end and Drew Brees on the sideline. Like, LSU's roster in that Texas Bowl after the 2021 season was embarrassing, and what Purdue put out there on the field a year later was embarrassing. And with the transfer portal opening right after the game and the understanding that you don't know if any of the players that are participating in your team's bowl game are going to be there the following year, there's just not a lot to draw from it. If you've got a lopsided matchup like Georgia and Florida State very famously, like the 2 games I just talked about, like, it's not competitive on the field. And then if you were trying to say, well, it's kind of a springboard into next year's season, which I don't think I didn't buy it as much as some of the former players, which take their word for it over mine. That's fine with me. But, like, I just don't know that losing the Cotton Bowl or winning the Chick-fil-A Bowl or winning the Citrus Bowl at the time or losing the Music City Bowl was really, really impactful come Labor Day the next year. Like, I don't know that I fully bought into that. But there was a sense of, like, you had some young guys that were playing that were going to be back, so let's watch those guys go get it. Like, I was interested in Garrett Nussmeier getting that start against Wisconsin a couple years ago in that bowl game. I didn't really care if LSU won or lost the game, but I knew that Garrett Nussmeier was likely to be the quarterback the following season. It was getting his first real start. Like, okay, let's watch him and see how this goes. And he ended up leading a touchdown drive at the end of the game. He played pretty well. LSU won the game, and he became a prolific passer at LSU the next season. And so, like, there was a draw into that bowl game. But, like, big picture, you're going to have to set a significant hook for me to really feel like I'm invested in these bowl games. This is a me thing. I'm not telling you how to feel. Trust me. Like, if you want to go nuts, put on your purple and gold, scream at the television, get drunk, have a watch party, and invest in this one like they're playing Alabama in early November, perfectly fine. That's great. I just can't do it. I got jaded by those 2 bowl games that I watched LSU play in, and then I've watched this kind of play out. So to me, like, when they announced that you're playing Houston in the bowl game, one, I'm bummed out because that's my kid's birthday and I have to leave Shreveport a little bit early, and the postgame show is not going to end until 2 o'clock in the morning. So that wasn't great for me personally. But, like, from the bowl game perspective, I look at it and go, okay, not a lot for me to chew on. But at least today, we got a sense of what roster LSU is bringing to Houston. It's all subject to change. Guys can opt out. Guys can decide they don't want to play. Guys can enter the transfer portal. Like, I'm not 100% certain, but Frank Wilson spoke on the teleconference today for the bowl game and gave us a pretty good outline of what LSU is bringing to the Texas Bowl. Garrett Nussmeier is not going to play. Garrett Nussmeier has been hurt all year. He didn't play in LSU's last 3 games. He's not going to go out there and play in the Texas Bowl. So he's out. If you stick to the offensive side of the ball, Aaron Anderson is not likely to play per Frank Wilson. And if you say not likely at this point on the 9th of December and you've got 18 days to go, that's a pretty grim outlook. Frank Wilson's the guy who constantly on Mondays, like, we're hopeful. We're hopeful this guy's going to play on Saturday. We're hopeful that guy's going to play on Saturday. The guy that would come to the mic on Thursday and usually say, we'll give it a look on game day. For him to say, not likely. For Aaron Anderson, this far out, feels like he's probably not going to play either. Braylon Moore, he said there's a chance. And that, to me, indicates that Braylon Moore would like to try to play in this game. I think if he had no interest in playing in the game, that Frank Wilson would have said that, because Garrett Nussmeier's not playing, and there are a couple guys on defense, Whit Weeks and Mansour Lane, who aren't playing in this game. So the fact that he said that Braylon Moore is got a chance, that suggests to me that he may well play in this game. But then you go to the defensive side of the ball, and probably your two best players, Whit Weeks and Mansour Lane, not going to play in this game. And then the other name that he mentioned outwardly, and he wasn't really asked about individual players. He kind of went through the entire thing that was in front of him. He was clearly, and this is not like revealing any breaking news, it was a video teleconference he was on. But he was literally peeking over to look at the sheet he had to know who was available and who was not. And it's clear that they've had these conversations with these players. So you're not going to have Whit Weeks. You're not going to have Mansour Lane. But and Jack Pyburn is the other one that I was getting to there that sounds like an opt-out. Jack Pyburn came to LSU to play more on third downs, to get a chance to rush the passer, to get a change of scenery in a new program and to chase a national championship. And he's developed. He got to play a lot. They're not going to win a national championship. He may say, hey, it's time for me to go to the NFL. And that's what a lot of players are going to do this time of the year. If you're one of those people that says that's an unacceptable stance, you line up with this team in August, you need to be with them at the end of December, I'm not backing you off that. I'm just telling you that what Pyburn is likely doing here is something that a lot of players across the country are going to be doing at this point. So outside of that, you kind of got what you got. You've got an offensive line that sounds like it's going to participate. You've got wide receiving core outside of Aaron Anderson. It sounds like it's going to participate. Your running back should be out there. At corner, you lose Mansour Lane. That's a big deal. And you've lost Ashton Stamps to the transfer portal, so it's going to be DJ Pickett, PJ Woodland, and then kind of figure it out beyond that. Nobody has to worry about burning a red shirt. So you'll have, if they want to play Javian Toviano, if they want to play Aiden Anding, if they want to kick Tamarcus Cooley down and play Spears back at safety, like they have a lot of options they can play with that nickel role, with that other cornerback role. But your first two will be Pickett and PJ Woodland. It sounds like AJ Halsey and Tamarcus Cooley will play in this game. At linebacker, you won't have Whit Weeks, and it seems like, based on his Instagram post, that West Weeks is not going to play in this game. That I can't confirm based on the Instagram post, but he did say goodbye to LSU. Would have felt like something you'd probably do after the bowl game if you were going to play in the bowl game, but West didn't come up today with Frank Wilson. But you still got Devon Keys, and you still got some of those other guys that you can count on at linebacker. Maybe Zach Weeks comes up and plays a little bit more. Tylen Singleton got a little bit of run this year. So it's not a roster that is going to be crippled. And let's be candid, when you bring in that many players out of the transfer portal and your coach gets fired, and your position coaches, especially on the defensive side of the ball, especially on the offensive side of the ball, are on the way out, and you're only playing in the Texas Bowl against Houston, it would not have surprised really anybody to see significant opt-outs in this game, and it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. Michael Van Buren will be the quarterback, and you'll go out there and you'll play Houston in the Texas Bowl in a game that doesn't have a lot of consequences, but should feature enough scholarship players to make LSU functional. So this game, while it is the Texas Bowl, it's way below what you were looking for when you started this thing off in August and when you won that game against Clemson. I don't believe this game is going to be an outward joke. So we start there. And I feel like I have to start there. Like, some of these bowl games are jokes. This one doesn't appear to be a joke. It's more in line with what we saw last year with LSU and Baylor. And you saw a couple of teams that, didn't have everybody that they had in the middle of November, but that essentially had their quarterbacks, had their skill position players, fielded a defense, and were ready to go out there and play some football. So from that perspective, I think it could be an interesting football game competitively. Is it going to have massive impact on what LSU does moving into the Lane Kiffin era? I don't think so. Is it a chance for Michael Van Buren to go out there and audition to be the starting quarterback for Lane Kiffin? Maybe. But I feel like LSU is going to be pretty aggressive in the transfer portal for a quarterback. So I think I'm not going to preview this game right now. We're not going to get into that 2 weeks out. We'll do that right before Christmas, so late next week, early the following week. But big picture, zooming out 5,000 feet, 30,000 feet, whatever you want to call it, it should be reasonably attended and competitive between these two teams. And that beats the heck out of some of the stuff we've seen previously. Is it as good as the playoff? Nope. Is it as good as the bowl games were 15 years ago? Nope. Are bowl games on their way out? Probably. You got 10 teams opting out of bowls, including some good ones like Notre Dame that are taking their ball and going home. We'll talk about that at the end of this hour. But it shouldn't be a joke. And so that's where we can start. And, you hope LSU goes out there and wins the game. Pulling for Frank in his final game. He took some other questions today about his future at LSU, said that determination has not been made. He just kind of dismissed the question. It feels like that determination probably has been made between he and Lane Kiffin, but Frank did say multiple times today that there's kind of two existing operations going on right now. The LSU staff from 2025 is working on this bowl game. They start workouts today. They start practice on Thursday. And Lane Kiffin and some of his staff are working on the program as a whole. They're working on position coach hirings. They were dealing with that signing class. They're going to study what goes on in the transfer portal. Now, we know that a lot of LSU's future staff is back in Oxford on offense, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show today. But it's a team that's getting ready for the Texas Bowl, and then it's a program that's moving forward in Lane Kiffin, and those are kind of operating independent of one another. And it seems to be that they're coexisting quite nicely at this point. I'm not in there. I can't tell you that for sure. That's just what we're getting from Frank Wilson today, who took questions for about 12 minutes about this Texas Bowl. So for LSU, you're going to be without Garrett Nussmeier, without Mansour Delane, without Whit Weeks, probably without Aaron Anderson, maybe without Braylon Moore. We'll see what happens with Jack Pyburn. We'll see what happens with Ahmad Bro. It sounded like from Frank Wilson today that Bro would likely play. You're going to be without Ashton Stamps and maybe Wallace Foster, Kylan Billiot, Jelani Watkins, some of those guys that have gone in the portal. But you've got, relatively speaking, a sizable portion of your 2025 roster that will travel to Houston and play in this football game. So whatever that's worth, that's what we'll get to coming up later on this month. Let's switch over to the Saints. We'll do that with Sharief Ishaq next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Daryl May of Remax Partners. Daryl is someone with a unique set of skills if you're looking to buy or sell a home or some land in Louisiana or Mississippi. Daryl is a Baton Rouge lifer. He was born and raised here in Baton Rouge, now is proud to call St. Francisville home. So whether or not you're looking in the city limits here in Baton Rouge or somewhere that could be a secondary home or just a home outside the hustle and bustle you've always wanted, Daryl has experience in both of those. He also spent more than 20 years as a builder here in Baton Rouge. That means he has intimate knowledge of what good construction looks like, what good builds look like, what you should be in the market. So if you're looking for a home, he can help you find the one for you. Selling, buying, Daryl can do it all. And I also want to mention that he's happy to help you with hunting listings in Mississippi, with Gulf Coast listings in Mississippi. If you're looking for that home in Pass Christian or that condo over there in Bay St. Louis, he can help you with all that as well. He's with Remax Partners, DarylMayProperties.com. That's Daryl May with Remax Properties.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Daryl May Remax Partners. Looking for land to hunt or build? Call Daryl May Remax Partners.
Brought to you every Tuesday by Daryl May of Remax Partners, licensed realtor in Louisiana and Mississippi. Glen West coming up in 15 minutes talking Tigers. Let's talk about the New Orleans Saints. Sharief Ishaq down in New Orleans with WDSU. Joins on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Sharief, how we doing?
Good, man. I'm doing good. Got a Saints win, Tulane win. I mean, that's pretty good, I would say, in the city of New Orleans, where everything is kind of negative.
Yeah, it's not been great, but the Saints did win, and I didn't think it was fluky. I thought they went to Tampa and just straight up played better. Now, it wasn't a gaudy game in terms of the numbers, but you made the plays you had to, and Tyler Shuck did that. What'd you think of the rookie signal caller?
Look, I thought he had a very good game in the pocket. I understood he took the 3 sacks. You could say 2 of them kind of weren't on him. But you have to remember, Hunt, he's playing with 2 starters, and the other guys are second string and even third string offensive linemen. So for the most part, I thought he did pretty good. His pocket presence and his awareness is something that continues to improve with each game. I just like the way he has the awareness. He can, take a look at all of his receivers. He's done a good job of going through his progressions, and if something isn't there, he'll just flush the pocket and either run or make a play down the field. And the one thing that I enjoyed watching him do in this game, it was early on the first drive, he got the ball out quickly, and they were throwing the ball between the hashes really well. And that was just from start to finish. That's one thing that he's done exceptionally well this season when as a starting quarterback is he takes advantage between the hashes, and he uses Juwan Johnson really well. So, and Devon Bailey. So when I look at his progression in terms of a starting quarterback, they might have something here. Huh? They might have something at least through the rest of this season and next season.
And hope is what you're looking for. You're not going to blow anybody away, generally speaking, as a rookie quarterback. You just got to make the necessary strides and find your way. And Ishaq sat the first half of the season. Now he's in there. And I think one of the things that has stood out to me is that he's gotten Devon Bailey involved. And this is a guy that was a no-show for about 8 weeks, probably through no fault of his own. Not anymore. What do you think?
I mean, you asked me this question last week when we had this conversation, and I said they spent the 4th and 7th round pick on him. And look, he continues to show up again. The where he shows up the most to me, Hunt, is on 3rd down. I feel like it's his go-to receiver on 3rd down. He seems to find them. He seems to find a way to get open and get Tyler Shuck that catch that they really need to move the sticks. And that's what impresses me. He can go over the middle of the field and he can work the sidelines. That's the possession receiver that they've needed at least for the last 2 years, and now they have it in Devon Bailey. He's something this offense could use. Now they could use some more playmakers. That's something during the offseason we could talk about, but at least you know what you have when it comes to Bailey, Olave, and at least Juwan Johnson in terms of guys out there who can run routes. Devin
Neal, how about that?
Yeah, man. I've been kicking and screaming for more Devin Neal touches, and it's not the carries; it's also in the receiving game. I mean, he wasn't the leading rusher in Kansas by accident, dude. The guy is actually a good running back. He's pretty strong. He runs really well between the tackles, and if you flip the ball to him on the outside, he can make some moves and truck you. And you saw a glimpses of that in that game against the Buccaneers, and that's what they need. We keep saying this every week, Hunt. We need to see hope. You need to see development from your class that you had this year. And so far, look, man, this draft class is improving by the game, and that's a positive sign for this franchise.
I'm cautious because we got kind of excited after they went to Carolina and won, and they got the bye week, and you kind of got the vibes were good, and then they fell flat on their face against Atlanta. And I feel like we're kind of setting ourselves up here with a little bit of optimism, which has been few and far between for New Orleans really the last 2 years. Are you still cautious? Are you full-on optimistic? Like, what do we think about what we're talking about here? These young players playing well and winning a game.
Look, I'm optimistic about the young players, but in terms of like doing it from game to game, it's okay to be cautiously optimistic. I will say the difference between that win over the Panthers going into that Falcons game was that bye week kind of ruined a little bit of that momentum. This time, the Panthers are coming off a bye week, and the Saints are the ones who are playing after having a good game in Tampa against they were the division leaders. I guess they still are technically, but that's something you can hang your hat on. That at least they're going to get to play again this week instead of having that bye week. And there are some teams the Saints just have good matchups against, and that's the Carolina Panthers. Some teams you just match up well against, and this is the one team that they do match up well against. So I would feel very optimistic going into this matchup after seeing what they did last week. And it's not just like what you saw from Shuck and Bailey and Devin Neal. The defense has actually played much better under Brandon Staley as the weeks have gone on.
Carolina is somebody that has been the punching bag of the division for the last couple of years. Bryce Young has worn that moniker as well. At this point, they've played well enough times this year where I got to kind of take it easy this week because they've found a way to win a lot of games. Where are you with Carolina and how this could shake out on Sunday?
Yeah, you're right about that, Hunt. They have found ways to win some very important games, to say the least. I mean, to go to Green Bay and win a game, that's not easy. It's not easy to win to Green Bay. I mean, they punched the Cowboys. They beat the Rams. I mean, come on. those are some really good teams they've beaten. For them to do, for them to beat those 3 teams, let alone, that's just impressive. But for some reason, the Saints must be their kryptonite. I don't know what it is. It's just a matchup. They just do well against Bryce Young. They're able to bottle him up, and then they rely on a little Rico Dowdle or anybody in the run game, and it just seems to shut down immediately because Bryce Young can't do anything much against them. He's awesome against against the Falcons, but when it comes against the Saints, he's not that good against the Saints, and that's just how it is sometimes. Some teams just do well against you.
Talking about the young defensive backs, Kool-Aid, Alontae Taylor, they've made some plays. Jonas Sanker, to a degree, earlier in the season, made some plays recently. Are you feeling a little better about those guys? Because they've had some weeks that were not very good.
Now, that's where I would say I'm cautiously optimistic when it comes to that secondary, especially Alontae Taylor. Nice interception. Tez Johnson kind of didn't run the route the whole way, but hey, sometimes you take advantage of the mistakes. Jonas Sanker, he was up and down in the game. Quincy Riley, I thought, played decently in that game. He played really decent in that game. And Kool-Aid, he was also decent. But I just need to see more, Hunt. And I keep saying this all the time when you ask me about I need to see more consistently. But you're starting to see it. You're starting to see it. And it really helps those guys back there whenever the defensive line continues to get after the quarterback and even flush the run game. And that's kind of like why I thought they played decent in that game against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those young guys are going to grow, and this is a good growing situation for them with these 4 games left in the season. It's good. You want to see this, like I said, you want to see them continue to grow and develop, and the excitement is tempered, but you should feel a little bit better at least after seeing some of these games and how they continue to progress.
We know what the schedule is down the stretch. We know you got Carolina. We know you got a bad Tennessee team, a bad Jets team. Like, where are you on how many games that they need to win down the stretch?
I took them to go 5-12 before the season, and that's realistic.
Yeah,
go 2-2 down the stretch. They can go 2-2. Like, I'm not saying they're going to beat Carolina this week, because I do think Carolina is still a good team. But at some point, you have to win a home game. And we only have 2 home games left, so the Jets in this game. I'm going to go 2-2. I think they still finish 5-12. That's what I had them before the season. I think they're going to run into Titans and Jets who are playing the tank off, and somebody's going to have to lose at some point. So, and I think Titans sitting at 2-11, the Saints are sitting at 3-10. You can do the math there. Somebody's taking off right there.
If you go 5-12 and you win 3 of your last 5, which this would mean, like, would you feel pretty good going to the offseason about that?
I would feel good if I knew that Tyler Shark was the guy who continues to see his stock rise in these Final Four, because you want to see if he is your franchise quarterback, at least for next year. And the way he plays and the confidence, look, I know he's older than he is outplaying the rest of the quarterback class from this past draft. It's not even close. It really isn't. He's outplaying everybody. So, like, if he is, like, trending in that direction and you're going into the offseason and you're picking, like, 9th or 10th and you're 5-12, look, you just say, hey, I need to put pieces around him. I need to draft some players. Look, I have Devin Neal, too. I have some other draft, like Kelvin Banks. He's done well. I mean, Stutzman. And you're like, Riley. And you're like, okay, now all we need to do is put some pieces around Tyler after the way he played to close the season, and I feel really good. I mean, that's how the 5-12 feels really good. So
you going to pick him to win on Sunday?
You know what? I picked them to lose last few weeks. I just feel like it's something about their matchup with the Panthers that they're really like have their number. So I am going to pick the Saints to win this week.
I love to hear that. We'll talk about it next week. But also want a thumbnail on Tulane hiring Will Hall, which I know was not high on most fans' lists.
He said exactly that in his press conference today. It was the first thing he kind of said. Like, I know I wasn't everyone's number one choice in this room, but look, Pete Carroll wasn't USC's number one choice, and it turned out okay. I think that's a tough comparison to make.
Yeah.
I think when the Blake Baker thing fell apart for the last second, I really think the coaching cycle was kind of closed off on it. We saw a lot of the coaches already take other jobs, and they just kept it within the family. And you just got to hope that he keeps most of his coaching staff intact, because that would help him with continuity and at least to be successful. You do not want to see this program go backwards. I mean, after what Willie and John have done to build this program back up, you better hope that David Harris made the right decision here, because if not, they're going to be hiring another coach in a few years.
Reminds me of it reminds me of Mickey Loomis comparing Dennis Allen to Chuck Noll.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was kind of like, it feels like that Tulane did what the Saints did hiring Dennis Allen, but to be determined. He was 14-30 at Southern Miss, and I think he feels like he learned a lot from his time at Southern Miss, and to help him even more. I mean, it's a better program than Southern Miss, so he has to be better than 3 to 6 wins a year.
No question about it. All right, Sharief, we appreciate it. We'll talk next week.
You got it, Hunt. See you next week.
Sharief Ishaq, WDSU down in New Orleans, talking all things Saints. A little Tulane as well. Our Tuesday show is brought to you by Daryl May of Remax Partner. We'll come back to Glen West next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com. All your property and casualty needs from a commercial insurance perspective, they got you covered over at the Highland Insurance Group. If you're one of those that really focuses on premium, that's understandable. You're not nearly alone on that. That's the main thing you're looking for in an insurance program. You're not alone. But there's another aspect to this. And there's a technical aspect to it that can, one, improve the coverage that you have, and two, can help you in terms of premium. Jonathan told me a story, and I've told you all this before, about they took on a new client who had 5 locations for the business. And the entire general liability policy had $1 million for the 5 locations. He took each location and put $1 million on each location. So now $5 million of coverage for the same premium, because they know how to work with carriers. They know what space carriers want to be in, and they know what clients fit with those carriers, and they know how to make all those puzzle pieces fit together so that you get the best coverage at the correct price. That's the entirety of working with insurance. It's not just, well, how much money can you save me? That's a big deal, and Highland Insurance Group knows that. They absolutely are going to take premium into account, and they're an independent broker. They can shop with multiple different markets and make sure you're placed in the right place. But they're going to make sure the coverage is right as well to protect your business, because you don't know when that hurricane's coming, when that car accident may happen, the lawsuit happens, one of your employees clicks the wrong email and you've got a phishing situation. All those things can be covered by insurance, but if you're just looking at the premium, you might miss it. The Howard Insurance Group won't. Jonathan Carver and his team right here in Baton Rouge, they can help you out statewide. Check them out online at HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Daryl May Remax Partners. Looking for land to hunt or build? Call Daryl May Remax Partners.
Notre Dame's athletic director keeps talking, so we'll talk about that coming up in 15 minutes, close out hour number 1. He's still doing just a full court press media tour, as if that's going to help anything at all. I'll talk about it coming up. Glen West covers the Tigers for Go 24/7 with us on Tuesdays on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Glenn, how are you?
Doing great, Hunt. How about yourself?
Doing all right. You listened to Frank Wilson earlier today. He was asked about his future at LSU. What did you read into his response?
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds like they're keeping the lines of conversation open between him and Lane Kiffin. It sounds like they've had some really good talks here over the last couple of weeks as he's gotten settled in. I hope they can make something work here. I don't have a crystal ball to look into the future and see if Frank Wilson is going to be on this staff in 2026, but he's obviously somebody that means a lot to recruits in this state, particularly in the New Orleans area. He was great, I guess, in getting this, recruiting class over the finish line in 2026 and getting all these in-state players to stick to their commitments and sign with the Tigers. So I hope that something works out here. But I honestly don't know, because I think there is still a little bit kind of up in the air about Kevin Smith, who's the Ole Miss running backs coach right now, and whether or not he could potentially be coming on staff and just what that might mean for Frank and what his role could look like. So it's good that they're still communicating. It's good that him and Lane are having these conversations, but sounds like nothing's going to be decided here until after the bowl game.
Since we last spoke, obviously National Signing Day and the early signing period come and gone, and Blake Baker had an announcement on Friday that he'll be back. So what did you make of the last 7 days for Lane Kiffin's program?
Huge. I mean, I think just as big as getting these guys, settled in, and from a recruiting class perspective was, getting that commitment from Blake Baker that he's going to be back in 2026. And look, just listening to his comments yesterday, I listened to his interview with the off the bench guys, and it sounds like a guy that doesn't want to move. He's moved a lot with his family here over the last several years, and I think he wants to plant his roots here for a little bit longer. And I think that bodes well for Lane Kiffin. It bodes well for this defense and the future of this defense. And now that decision has been made, the other staff moves on that side of the ball have been kind of put into motion, and it'll be great to have Corey Raymond stick around, Kevin Peoples, Jake Olson. That continuity is really, really important to have as you're making all these moves on the other side of the ball. So I hope it's going to work out. We're going to get a chance now for these next couple of weeks for Kiffin and his defensive staff to work together about the kind of players that they want to go attack here in the transfer portal, because I do think they're going to need to fill some needs. But getting Blake Baker on board, at least for this next year, and hopefully potentially a little longer, I think is a really, really good sign and a really good move for Lane Kiffin in his first couple weeks on the job.
How would you grade the defense overall for this season?
Probably an A-. I mean, I think there was a couple week stretch there against, A&M and Vanderbilt where really nobody played well on either side of the ball. And, that was kind of the worst part of their stretch there. But, look, they held Ole Miss to 24 points. They had an opportunity to win that game. They put the clamps down on Alabama's offense and held them to 20 points. Oklahoma, they had a chance to win that game as well. They just were consistently let down by the offensive side of the ball throughout the entirety of 2025. And I think that they did a really, really nice job of playing consistent football for the most part. And, I think the one, I guess kind of knock that you could still have on them is that they kind of let a couple of those mobile quarterbacks, Marcel Reed and Diego Pavia in particular, get going a little bit with their legs. But those are two really dynamic, really explosive quarterbacks, and they did that a lot to a lot of different teams and a lot of different defenses this year. So, Pavia is going to be sitting up there in New York with a chance to win the Heisman. So, that kind of stuff happens to you defensively, but they were very, very consistent. I thought they did a great job of improving in the secondary. I think that's the most impressive group, when you look at the long-term future of this defense is the cornerback and safety room, and to, be where we are now from where that group was maybe 2 years ago, I think is massively important and mighty impressive. What's
your interest level in the Texas Bowl?
How do I answer this? Not too curious about the Texas Bowl. I think, look, the most important thing here over the next couple of weeks is for Lane Kiffin to get his eyes on this team and on these players, particularly some of these younger guys that they might want to keep in the program and might want to convince to stay. I think that's probably the most important thing you can learn. Well, maybe a couple of veteran guys, also be able to stick around. And I think, a name like Wick Weeks makes a lot of sense to potentially stick around for a senior year. Frank was also asked about that today and said those are ongoing conversations. So, I think that's the most important thing is for these young guys to get a couple more weeks of practice and, see which players might be able to stick around for this next era of LSU football. But there are some important pieces on both sides of the ball that I think can benefit from these next couple weeks of practice and certainly from an extra game here in a couple weeks against Houston.
All right, let's shift over to basketball. How big a deal was Sunday?
It was a pretty big deal to me. Like I think it was the first time we got a chance to see this team against real competition, and they kind of fell flat on their face. I mean, I think Texas Tech shot really well. I mean, like they shot the ball better in the first half than they probably will in any other half this season. But I think for me, the most important thing that I saw was just how difficult it was for LSU to create offense against a team that's, very physical and very skilled and very long and very strong, because those are the kind of teams that LSU is going to be facing here in SEC play for the next 4 months. And so, or 2 or 3 months. But, I think it was really, a big deal that they just were not able to score in any capacity. They were, they had open shots at some points and they just weren't going in. But really, I think the physicality in the paint and just the big lesson that I think I took and hopefully LSU took is that, the first 8 games, those looks are not going to be as easy or as consistent, and they're going to have to find ways to manufacture those looks in more efficient ways here going forward. They were not very consistent in the paint. I think they shot under 45% on their twos. This has been an elite team in the first 8 or 9 games of being able to convert in the paint and get to the free throw line, and that was definitely not anything they were able to do in that Texas Tech game. So it's certainly one you're going to put at the top there as if you're an SEC opponent as to how you want to try to defend this LSU team here going forward. And they're going to need some guys to start knocking down some outside shots to really spread the floor, open up the offense, and allow for some opportunities in the paint where they're not allowed, where the defenses aren't going to be collapsing on LSU's offense.
Kind of the same question. How big is this coming Saturday in New Orleans for this team against SMU?
Yeah, they need a bounce back for sure. I mean, they need guys to shoot better. They need guys to, not turn the ball over. They need, the Woko and those front court players to play more physical. It's an important game. These next couple games here, you got to really try to find some spark and really head into SEC play with some confidence and momentum. And I think that's going to be, a real test here against SMU on Saturday. They're another team that's, kind of long and physical, and they have an opportunity here to really kind of bounce back against, these guys. But, it's they have to find some kind of cohesion offensively for this team to be any good. And I think that's going to have to start this weekend against SMU, and trying to find some ways that they can be more creative in the paint and finding offensive opportunities for those guys to convert, at a more efficient rate.
Looking for team coverage, football, basketball, baseball, recruiting coverage, they got you over there at Go 24/7. Glen with us on Tuesdays. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, Huck.
He is Glen West, senior writer at Go 24/7. Tuesday shows brought to you by Daryl May of RE/MAX Partners. If you're looking to buy a home, you're looking to sell your home, give Daryl a call. I'll give you a cell phone number every single week on Tuesdays. It's 225-268-6915. 225-268-6915. You can also find him at darylmayproperties.com. He's Baton Rouge lifer, 20 years as a builder, now on the realtor side. Looking for some place in Mississippi, whether it's hunting land or a secondary home, or looking to move in Baton Rouge. Daryl May of RE/MAX Partners, happy to help you out with that. We'll step aside when we come back. Close out the hour coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust. Why should you bank with First American Bank and Trust? Well, it's a local bank. They've been down here in South Louisiana for 115 years. 25 locations, Baton Rouge, Jones Creek, Dutchtown, moving over to I-12 to Hammond, St. Tammany, Tangipahoa, down south, St. James, St. John, Lafourche, Terrebonne. 25 locations in Southeast Louisiana. And these folks that work here at First American Bank and Trust are part of your community. So when you call and have questions, or you're looking for a loan, and you're looking for a decision to be made, it's made locally. It's made right here by people that you see every single day. You're not calling some call center in Atlanta. You're not calling a call center in Chicago or LA. You're calling right here in Baton Rouge, in Lafourche Parish, in Metairie. That's what you're calling. First American Bank and Trust. All decisions are made locally by people inside your community. But don't say, oh, well, it's just a mom and pop shop. Like, can they do the things I need them to do from a commercial perspective? Absolutely. 25 locations. They've got assets, and they've got people that are here to help you. It's a community bank right here. It's First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Daryl May RE/MAX Partners. Looking for land to hunt or build? Call Daryl May RE/MAX Partners.
Tuesday shows brought to you by Daryl May of RE/MAX Partners. Closing out hour number 1 here. Colin Jeter will be with us in 12 minutes. This is just a me thing. I'm very honest. I'm a communicator. I like to put cards on the table. I don't like to be deceitful. I was bad at sales because in my head, to be a great salesman, oftentimes you've got to control the conversation and shape the way someone thinks and maybe be a little bit pushy and apply a little bit of pressure. And those are things that I don't have a lot of confidence in doing. I don't like to do. I like to just be open and honest. And because of that viewpoint that I have, like public relations to me, this is a me thing. I'm not being literal here. This is up into interpretation. Public relations to me, oftentimes, I find to be deceptive, to be dishonest. I find it to be manipulative and disingenuous. When I think about public relations, I think about something that happens, and then your job is to make the public think something different, even if we all just watched it happen. I don't like public relations for the most part because of that. I'm not painting with an entirely broad brush about every public relations department and everything they always do. There's a lot of public relations that's great work. But in this case, with this Notre Dame thing that I'm about to talk about, it feels like there's a point of diminishing returns, and Pete Bevacqua has gone way past it. He is Notre Dame's athletics director, and after this selection show on Sunday, he has gone on the warpath. He is getting in front of every microphone, in front of every camera he can possibly find, and I find that it's doing more harm than good. You're talking about a guy who said that at Notre Dame and the ACC, there's been permanent damage done between Notre Dame and the ACC. He had the audacity today to say we had one of the most dominant 10-game runs in the history of college football. Pete, let me be pretty clear here, boss. This dominant 10-game run was against Purdue and Arkansas and Boise State and NC State and USC and Boston College and Navy and Pitt and Syracuse and Stanford. And those teams are not good. The only team you played in that stretch that is good is USC. That's it. The rest of it was a joke. It's a joke. Your schedule is a joke. The only two games that you played against really good teams, you lost. You lost the games. So I don't need to hear you get in front of a microphone and scream about corruption and scream about collusion and scream. You left yourself vulnerable because you went out there in the first two games of the season and you got beat. In any discussion you have beyond that, you're going to have to start with the losses. You have to. Nobody wants to sit here and talk about beating NC State. No one cares. Arkansas is the worst team in the SEC. Nobody cares about your game with Navy. Nobody. Go win it. 49-10. Awesome. We don't care. You played two good teams. You lost. That's where the conversation has to start. Don't tell me about the 10-game run after you lost. Everyone's got a kowtow to Notre Dame at every term. Every time we put together a playoff, we have to talk about the power conferences and Notre Dame. And every time we put together a bowl thing, we have to talk about and Notre Dame. And now we got a memorandum of understanding that Notre Dame is signed with the College Football Playoff Committee that says if they're in the top 12 next year, that they're automatically in. Why? Go play by everybody else's rules. If you want to find yourself to be elite and you want to go ahead and put your own schedule together and then you can't handle your business in your own schedule, quit going in front of every microphone and telling me that you got screwed. Nobody wants to hear it. You did not beat anyone. You played a season and didn't beat anybody. So this constant, if you want to have one press conference after the selection and air your grievances, fine. That's standard. You're telling your side of the story. The press needs to hear it. We'll write the stories. People can debate it. The world goes on and on. The fact of the matter is that continuing to go on every single show you can find in every single radio program and get onto social media and get in front of another press conference and talk to the college, it's just embarrassing. And no one feels bad for Notre Dame. No one. We don't feel bad. You want to play by all your own rules. You want to play all the service academies all the time. You want to kind of get into a conference, but kind of not because you kind of want to do your own thing. Well, if you're going to go out there and do your own thing, you better take care of your business. And flatly, you put this in the committee's hands. And they had to choose between three teams that had comparable resumes. And if you want to sit here and complain that Alabama didn't move back for losing in the SC championship game, well, you can do that, but I'm just not going to listen, and I don't care. Go win the games you're supposed to win. You didn't beat Miami. You lost. You didn't beat Texas A&M on your home field. You lost. So I don't need you to play in a bowl game. You can take your ball and go home. The fact of the matter is that it's embarrassing to continue to get up there and scald everyone when your football team went out there and lost to the 2 playoff teams that you had a chance to go beat. Bama went out and beat a playoff team. They went to Georgia and won the game. Okay? They won the game. You had your 2 chances against playoff teams, and you got beat. 3 points, 20 points, whatever. But don't tell me about one of the most dominant runs in college football history that includes wins over Boise State and Pittsburgh, because I'm just not going to listen to you. I'm certainly not going to take you seriously. If you want to have your time right out of the chute and state your case, just stop with this whole tour. It's embarrassing. And if you want to say that the ACC's done irreparable damage to the relationship, well, then get out of the ACC. Go join a real conference. Go join the SEC. Go play in the Big Ten. Go do what we all do. You want to treat yourself all special and you don't have to do it by everybody else's rules? Fine. Well, these are the rules. We have a committee that picks, and they picked against you because you played 2 teams that are functional and you lost both games. And the fact that you don't come out there and say that in the middle of your deal, that's the part I don't like about public relations. And that's what you're trying to do right now. Don't sell me Syracuse. No one cares. Pitiful from Notre Dame. That's why I don't like Notre Dame. I don't recruit against Notre Dame ever, unless you rarely play as Notre Dame. It's not a rival, but I don't like Notre Dame because they feel like they're better than everybody else, and we can do it our own way. Well, enjoy sitting home all December, and your coach might go leave to the coach of the Giants. So we'll see. We got a lot to do in hour number 2. Colin Jeter is going to be with us coming up at the top of the hour, and we'll also talk about the coaches that are in Oxford right now but are on LSU's payroll. What does all that mean? We'll do that coming up in 20 minutes after Sports Center and Colin on this Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing. Lifetime Roofing. You got options when you decide to get a roof inspection, when you decide to get a roof repair, when you decide to get a new roof. Consider wisely and go with Lifetime Roofing. They're based here in Baton Rouge. They service the entire state of Louisiana, no matter where you are. If you're on the North Shore, you're down in New Orleans, you're over in Lafayette, or you're certainly right here in our listening area in Baton Rouge. Lifetime Roofing, happy to help you out. They offer roof replacements, as I mentioned, roof repairs, roof tune-ups. Go to the website, lifetimeroofingla.com, and put that information in and get that Lifetime Roofing crew out to your home today. Roof is nothing to mess around with. You know that around here in South Louisiana. You got to take that very seriously, especially when storm season comes around. Contact the team at Lifetime Roofing at lifetimeroofingla.com. That's lifetimeroofingla.com. Protect your home. Protect your greatest investment. It's Lifetime Roofing at lifetimeroofingla.com.